Hello and welcome back to the third rail. Today I shall cover a few basics around Märklin couplings, where they come from, how they work, what can go wrong and how to fix it. In short, it's another little helper video. If there wasn't a Märklin coupling, it would have to be invented. I think it's a little marvel. The Märklin automatic coupling with advance on coupler, as it was then called, first appeared in 1956 and was fitted to a few wagons. It was subsequently rolled out to the entire Märklin wagon and coach lineup within a few years. In 1967, it got the name most of us grew up with, Relex, far easier to pronounce, and not to be confused with the telex coupling, which is a remote control coupling fitted to some locomotives. Until the introduction of the short coupling in the mid-1980s, Relex was the standard Märklin coupling fitted to rolling stock and most steam locomotives, shunters, as well as a few diesels and electric locomotives. The short coupling is an evolution of the Relex coupling, allowing a shorter, more prototypical, some may say, distance between coaches and wagons. Today, the Relex coupling is only offered on the Märklin startup range, so the entry-level range. The short coupling is the standard for the rest of the product lineup. Before the introduction of the Relex coupling, Märklin used a simple loop and hook automatic coupling similar to the one adopted by a lot of European model railway manufacturers. With Relex, Märklin improved its behavior during remote uncoupling. This is made possible by a cleverly positioned movable latch resting on the hook. During the coupling process, the latch is pushed upwards by the loop, which can then engage and drop behind the hook. Push a pair of wagons over a Märklin uncoupling track, and at the press of a button, or the manual lever, a ramp is raised that pushes against levers protruding from under the coupling. These lift the coupling loops and latches. When the ramp goes down, the latches and loops fall back. The latches return to their resting position first, blocking the path to the hook. The loops follow and end up resting on top of the latches. In this state, the couplings are unlocked, but the wagons can be pushed back without becoming coupled again. When the locomotive pulls away, a wagon will be left behind. Isn't this magic? You have seen the process in action if you watch some of the shunting scene videos on the channel. The short couplings work along the same principle and are backward compatible with any Märklin track produced since 1957. Beyond this functionality, the couplings play a vital role in terms of operational safety. Without it, the Märklin system would not be as reliable and easy to use as it is. They are more than a simple mean of attaching wagons to each other. The couplings ensure that cars are kept at a standard distance that will allow them to negotiate curves safely. The couplings can move and follow the orientation of the track for this purpose. This is made possible by several means. On most Tinplate coaches and wagons that are equipped with bogies, the couplings form an integral part of the bogies, so they move along with them. For anything else, the coupling is fitted to the chassis or the bogie using a screw, split pin or peg that doubles as a pivot point. In this arrangement, some form of spring keeps the coupling under tension so that it always returns to a central position. For short couplings, a spring-loaded kinematic NAM attachment was developed that has now become the norm on most coaches and is fitted to some wagons too. Relex or short couplings are reliable, but things can go wrong, and this usually involves a derailment or sudden uncoupling. Fortunately, almost everything is fixable. Let's cover a few basics first. If your cars come from a box like this one, you can expect problems. Storage is the main cause of issues. Items can easily get bent or broken if not stored in a way that protects them from shocks or contact with foreign objects. Then, the coupling process should be easy and not require anything else but a light push. If you need to lift a car, manually engage a loop or use any force to get cars to couple, then something is wrong and needs fixing. If the coupling went well and you experience a derailment or uncoupling on the track, then the track needs to be checked before attempting to do anything to the coupling. The joints between track sections need to be inspected, as a gap or bump of as little as 1 mm represents 10% of the wheel diameter roughly. You add speed or inertia to this scenario, and this will most likely cause a drop or a jump which can lift cars enough for the coupling loop to become disengaged. Imagine sitting in a railway coach and hitting a sudden drop of 10 centimeters in the track. I am sure you will feel it, and that it won't be a pleasant experience. At the risk of stating the obvious, the most common issues will be among the following. Fish plates might not be properly fitted to rails. This will cause a few bumps. Curved section of tracks might not be properly aligned, leaving a wide gap in the joint, which might exceed the tolerances of the geometry. And some cars will not like that at all. Finally, and that's an issue I have, the surface of the table or baseboard might not be even. Or in the case of a ramp, the start of the ramp might be too steep. Usually in these situations, a locomotive with a simple hook coupling, that's the one without a loop, or a telex coupling, will become separated from the first wagon or coach, and this needs adjusting. Once these checks have been done, it will be time to look at the wagons themselves. I usually work my way up from the rails to the coupling, so I start with the wheels. There is a simple rule for me: anything made of metal will likely be adjustable, anything made of plastic won't be, and will most certainly need replacing. We'll need to have a few tools ready. Of course, there's always the trusty Märklin toolset or an equivalent toolset. In addition, we'll need a pair of small needle nose pliers. I prefer to use a bent type. Then we have the Märklin coupling gauge, reference number 7001, which you can still get from the Märklin website or from the trade. It only costs a couple of euros. And then I have a choice of a variety of spare plastic couplings. As we are likely to use the coupling gauge, it is best to work in close proximity to an even piece of track. I mentioned earlier that I work my way up from the rail to the coupling. This is to ensure that I perform any adjustment on the coupling with the correct ride height. So I start by checking the wheel sets. They need to move freely and be of the same type. A previous owner might have made a mistake, you can never be sure. On sheet metal cars, the axles are held in place between metal latches which can be adjusted, usually by bending them inwards. On plastic chassis and bogies, it is common that axle ends get dislodged in transport. Here, things simply clip back in. Next, we'll need to check the bogies. This bit applies to Tinplate cars where the coupling forms an integral part of the bogie. The bogie needs to be able to swivel by the same amount in both directions. If it doesn't, something is in the way. The step ladders on Tinplate coaches have a tendency to bend inwards and can be straightened up with the back of a pair of tweezers or a screwdriver. The buffer beam attached to some bogies can also be an issue and might need straightening. We can then start looking at the couplings finally. For standalone metal couplings, the springs need to be checked first. On some types of wagons, there is a spring tension between hooks located on the coupling ends. If missing, it will need replacing. If detached, it will need to be reattached. The spring not only plays a role in ensuring the coupling returns to a central position, it also helps the coupling maintain its height. It needs to be present before attempting any adjustment with the coupling gauge. For couplings attached with a screw, there is usually a leaf spring somewhere. This also needs to be checked and bent back in shape, if need be. It is now finally time to use the coupling gauge. It is simply placed on the track, like so. The instructions are short but to the point and give an excellent indication of what height and shape to look for. It is just a matter of railing and pushing a wagon against the coupling gauge. If the coupling fits, that's good. If it doesn't, it is time to get the pliers out and start to gently bend the offending part back into shape. A thing that is not mentioned in the manual is that the coupling arm on metal bogies needs to be checked to ensure that it is straight, horizontal and flat. In extreme cases, you may need to drop the bogie to adjust the coupling arm. There is a C-clip that can be removed easily. The bogie then lifts straight up. You can then do your adjustments and check the coupling again with the gauge. For couplings attached with a screw on wagons and locomotives, it is good to check the screw is properly fitted, as it will impact the coupling height. Now let's have a look at plastic couplings. The gauge is not needed here really, as they are not adjustable. The most common issue is to find a coupling not returning to center. This is most likely caused by one of the leaf springs which might have jumped its peg. The fix is easy. Reposition the spring. It could also be that one of the springs is bent. There it is possible to try and bend the spring back into shape. This might look okay at first and be functional, but in my experience the spring will give again very quickly after that, so I usually replace the coupling with a new one immediately. On cars with articulated short couplings, the kinematic NEM pocket arm can become dislodged, usually in transport. You'll find that it doesn't move easily. I have dismantled one to show you an example. This is one of an early type from the 1980s. It has a little slot at the front that will slide in the opening on the chassis. It will need to be repositioned if dislodged. I was never able to do it without taking the car apart. Another item that can go wrong is the spring, which can come loose. On this type of coupling arrangement, the spring is accessible from under the chassis. I dismantled the car just so you could see it. It is possible to reseat the spring without dismantling the car. It is fiddly though, but it's doable. You'll know that something is wrong if the coupling doesn't return to center on its own. On newer cars, the articulated coupling system was improved, but can only be fixed by dismantling the car. As you can see, it is shaped differently and it has a real spring. These too can become loosened, but rarely. These were the only adjustments I know of with plastic couplings. Anything else requires a replacement in my view. The plastic couplings are less robust than the good old metal couplings, so this happens rather regularly. I have put together a list of items I replace frequently, which you can see on screen now. The couplings are usually sold in set of 50 by Märklin direct, but you'll also find them by the unit or in tens in the trade. Here is also a reference table for springs used in older types of wagons. What I have mentioned so far should be enough to deal with the majority of the Märklin production until the early 1990s. For anything equipped with NEM-style pockets, it is possible to replace the coupling heads with drawbars. These were often molded together with the uncoupling aid that came with wagons. There were also current-conducting versions, such as the ones used with the 4228 Rheingold set. Since then, Märklin introduced a few more changes. There are also current-conducting versions of the standard short couplings. A thinner short coupling has also been released recently to allow the coupling to clear the buffers in line with NEM norms. Some cars are also equipped with retractable buffers these days. Finally, officially, short couplings and the various versions of Relex couplings are compatible and should operate safely together. This is only true in ideal circumstances, so if everything is level, couplings are adjusted properly, then things should work. In practice, however, nothing is perfect, so the best results are achieved by joining cars with similar couplings. Metal Relex with metal Relex, plastic Relex with plastic Relex, short with short. If I need to mix and match, I usually swap a coupling on a car if physically possible. Right, I think I have covered a lot of aspects in this video. I might have forgotten one or the other thing, but where would the fun be if there wasn't a surprise to deal with from time to time? I'd like to thank you very much for watching. It's very much appreciated. I'd also like to thank you for all the subscriptions and likes you are giving me. This is very rewarding and keeps me going. It also helps the channel in reaching a wider audience. Thank you very much again for this. Bye for now.